Hello everyone and welcome to CRPS Contender, my complex regional pain syndrome education channel. Today we are covering part 2 of RSD to CRPS, Vulvodynia, the menstrual monster. Before we get into the meat of this video, I want to go over 4 pieces of terminology with you. The first is nociceptors. These are pain or threat receptors that are activated by potentially harmful stimuli. Nociception is the physiological process by which body tissues are protected from damage. The next are mast cells, which are immune sentinel cells very similar to dendritic cells that respond directly to pathogens and send signals to other tissues and cells to modulate innate and adaptive immune responses. Mast cells are found in most tissues of the body, particularly in locations that are in close contact with the external environment, like your skin, your airways, your intestines. This includes your vaginal tissues. Next, epithelial cells. These are widespread throughout the body and form the covering of all body surfaces. They line hollow body cavities and organs, and are the major tissue in glands. They perform a variety of functions including protection, secretion, absorption, excretion, filtration, diffusion, and sensory reception. If you've read the 2018 hypothesis put forward by Russo et al., you will know that epithelial dysfunction is one of the major areas of dysfunction. And finally, cytokines, which are small proteins released by cells that have a specific effect on the interactions and communications between cells. They're little messengers, basically. There are both pro-inflammatory cytokines and anti-inflammatory cytokines. So what is CRPS? CRPS is a severe immunoneurological disorder, where the innate and adaptive arms of the immune systems work in coordination to attack and degrade or destroy neurons, focusing specifically on autonomic neurons and their functions. The autonomic nervous system is responsible for your reflexive, involuntary, unconscious behaviors, and is split into 3 major categories: your sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric systems. Your sympathetic system is responsible for your mobilization responses, your parasympathetic is responsible for your maintenance responses, and your enteric system is responsible for your motility responses of your digestive tract. Reflex sympathetic dystrophy brought the sympathetic aspects of this disorder into the spotlight, but perhaps at the expense of the other autonomic, immune, endocrine, limbic, cortical, and epithelial dysfunctions that play into this complex, progressive neurodegenerative disorder. To break away from the focus of the sympathetic system at the expense and dismissal of the other areas, a name change was proposed and complex regional pain syndrome was born. A major factor in this name change from RSD to CRPS is an intractable severe pain in the entire genital region, which was problematic because the genital region ought to be regulated by the parasympathetic nerves running out of your sacral area at the base of your spine. Vulvodynia complications are some of the most difficult and intense pain in medicine, and in CRPS, the sympathetic system is the sole driving mode of this severe intractable pain in the genital area. Sympathetic nervous system dysfunction in the pelvic area spreads pain to the abdominal region, the lumbar spine, which is your lower back, your lower extremities, as well as spreading the pain upward through the sympathetic ganglion chain to the cervical spine, which is your neck area, causing severe headache, neck pain, dizziness, blurring of vision, insomnia, and depression, in addition to the severe pain in the genital area. The sympathetic nervous system has 3 major functions: control of temperature, control of vital signs, and modulation of the immune system. While experiencing vulvodynia, the immune system becomes rapidly dysfunctional. Inflammation, poor circulation, and the spread of pain in the pelvic abdominal region causes neuroinflammation of the ovaries, disruption of estrogen secretion, and causes interstitial cystitis, which is also known as chronic bladder pain. This causes an increased urgency and frequency of urination and even sometimes incontinence. Symptoms of low estrogen or estrogen secretion disruption include painful sexual intercourse due to a lack of natural lubricant, breast tenderness, an increased risk of UTIs due to urethral thinning, irregular or absent periods, night sweats, hot flashes, headaches or accentuated pre-existing migraines, mood swings, depression, fatigue, trouble concentrating, and insomnia. So now that we know a quick overview of what vulvodynia is and a little bit about what it does, why does it happen cellularly? You have multiple different kinds of cells in your vaginal cavity. Some of those are epithelial cells, nociceptors, and mast cells. All three of these different kinds of cells are in close functional contact with each other. A key element of this pathogenesis of this vulvodynia and severe pelvic pain is the crosstalk between the nerve endings of the nociceptors, adjacent mast cells in the immune system, and the epithelial cells. Vulvodynia has been recognized as a cytokine-mediated pain syndrome, characterized by an increase in pro-inflammatory cytokines and decreases in anti-inflammatory cytokines. This creates an exaggerated response to inflammation due to a decreased ability to downregulate inflammatory activity, which is currently seen as a cornerstone of the pathogenesis of this disease. This means that the pain is no longer being derived and perpetuated by the organ itself, but is instead being expressed by the autonomic nervous system through this organ. So if you're experiencing vulvodynia, what are some things you can do to improve your situation? First, I want to talk about what you should not do. Now this I am pulling directly from Various Complications of Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, authored by Dr. Hushman. Dr. Hushman recommends that you do not utilize sympathetic, lumbar, or pelvic ganglion blocks. At this point, it is too late for sympathetic blocks to be beneficial, and they will do more harm than good to the patient. These blocks will provide pain relief for just a few hours, or maybe even a day or two. At this point, you are experiencing sympathetically independent pain, and so utilizing sympathetic blocks is not going to be effective. You should also avoid opioid agonists, such as hydrocodone, oxycodone, fentanyl, morphine. There are others as well, but these are just a few examples. I will be doing another video talking specifically about why opioid agonists should be avoided for CRPS, but for now I'm not going to get into that. Amitriptyline should also be avoided because it causes systemic side effects and makes the patient gain 7 to 16 pounds of weight a year. You should also not limit your anticonvulsants to gabapentin alone. This is good for burning nerve pain, but is less effective than other types of anticonvulsants. Biopsies should never be done. This condition is severe enough, and the trauma of a biopsy can further aggravate the condition. So, now that what you should not do is out of the way, what are things that you can do to reduce your pain? Proximally applied caudal nerve and lumbar epidural blocks containing the anti-inflammatory drug depomedrol. This can provide 2.5 to 3 months of relief. IV immunoglobulin for immune deterioration. You can utilize opioid antagonists, analgesic antidepressants, and analgesic anticonvulsants. You can also try using some Epsom salts in your baths. The way this works is by using the magnesium in the Epsom salts to block calcium channels to help calm neural inflammation. You're going to want to start by adding just small amounts of Epsom salts into your bath and gradually increasing according to your levels of pain tolerance. Quick recap here before we're done. Today we covered some terminology, what is RSD CRPS, switching from RSD to CRPS, vulvodynia, which is severe genital pain and causing immune and estrogen disruption, pelvic pain as an inflammatory response, and treatment do's and don'ts according to Dr. Hushman. Now before my final slide here, due to some of the content that I cover on my channel, it appears that YouTube might be suppressing some of my videos. So, if you like the content I'm creating here, why don't you plop over to my channel video page and make sure that if there's any videos that you haven't watched, it's just because you're not interested and not because you don't know that they're there. Alright, now that that's out of the way, thanks so much for watching. If you would like to contribute to my medical expenses, my Patreon is listed below. If you enjoy the content I'm creating here, hit subscribe. If you want to see any of the primary sources for yourself, relevant sources, as always, are linked in the description below. I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you next time.